Hey guys, we're back. I'm Dr. Kanisha, pharmacist by day, reseller by night. I wanted to talk about how I paid off $100,000 in 11 months. Somebody really wanted to know how I did that because I know you guys were interested because I was using some of my reselling income to help pay off that debt towards the end. So brief story time. So went to pharmacy school 2002 to 2008. And I graduated with about $113,000. And it really was about $140,000 between what was in my name and what was in my parents' name. But they helped me pay off a bunch of that before graduating. So I ended up graduating with about $113,000. And actually, I did consolidate several loans into one loan, which equaled that 113. And I actually refinanced as well. And I was able to refinance a portion out of my parents' name into my name. So that was really great. And I used the refinancing company Laurel Road, if anybody is curious. So check in the description box for a link, because honestly, refinancing changed the game for me. For real, for real. So I went from a 5.375 interest rate to about a 3%. And it was a 3% variable rate though. That's a key part of it, variable. So variable means that it changes. That interest rate changes with the market. And it was on what we call a 3-month LIBOR. So a 3-month LIBOR means that every 3 months, the interest rate changes. So the company, Laurel Road, sends me a letter stating, okay, your interest rate is now this every 3 months. Your interest rate is this. And so since it was a decently consistent time between 2015 and 2017, which we weren't really expecting like a huge increase in interest rates during that time. So I was like, okay, I feel semi-safe enough to do this variable rate because it was so low at 3%. So low. But honestly, I would suggest during these uncertain times in the pandemic that you do choose a fixed rate. So look in the description and check for that Laurel Road link. So you can go in and you can apply, you can upload any documents that you need just by taking a picture and uploading. It was super simple. You can do it very quickly. You can upload a picture of your license, all of that jazz, and then they shoot back an email with, okay, you're approved and this is your fixed interest rate, and you really get to decide. So, and I would suggest actually doing more than one company. So look at Laurel Road, but also look at, I really like SoFi or Common Bond. Those are 2 other ones that I really looked at. And if you apply to these 3 in a 30-day time period, you'll just have that one hard credit pull instead of having several because you've reached it beyond that 30-day time frame. So just a little tidbit there, okay? So I refinanced during this time period, so 2015. And then what happened then is that after I refinanced all those loans out of my parents' name, I was like, okay, what are the ways that I'm going to pay off these student loans? Because I was fed up. I had enough. I was like, you know what? I can't function like this anymore. It was like, a ball and chain on my ankle every day. Every job, you feel like, oh, I can't leave this job because I'm chained to my student loans. It's like, don't forget, right? Don't forget this dark cloud over your head every day. You're feeling overwhelmed by it every day. Like everything you do is because you have these student loans. It's not a great place to be. And I know that most of us have been in it or are in it now, right? So some of the key ways that I was able to get out of debt were very unconventional, right? There were things that I heard from Dave Ramsey podcast. There were things that I heard while reading other people's blogs. And so one of the items was bonds. My parents had education bonds for us since we were little. So for all 3 of us. And the education bonds, you buy them at, let's say $50 for half price. It's a $100 bond. And then you wait for it to mature, let's say $200. But it literally was taking almost 20 years. I said, Mom, give me my bonds. Let me see how much they are now. Because you could go on the Treasury website and see, okay, well, how much is this particular bond, this item number from 1986? And she gave me them, and she was kind of astonished that some of these bonds, after 20 years, have still not matured yet. And I'm thinking, so if I would have put this in a good mutual fund over the last 20 years, it probably would have been way more than $200. You know what I mean? But at the time, that is what people, families, parents did. They bought bonds. They had the bonds sent to the house and you stashed them away for that rainy day, that time period where it was time for your, well, not even rainy day, but it was that time period of it's time to pay for my kids' education. So how am I going to do that? And it was with, the bonds. But I still had them. I had been, years and years, graduated in 2008, so I hadn't even come to really look for the bonds until I had graduated like 8 years ago. So I went on the Treasury website, logged them all on the website. It showed, exactly how much each of the bonds were worth, and it came to about $15,000, which amazing, right? And it was funny, I actually had to have a conversation with my dad first where I'm like, okay, I want to actually use these for my education. Are you cool with that? He was like, yeah, do what you got to do. But I had to set up an appointment with him and say, okay, this is my plan. This is what I'm doing. Because once I get it into my brain, what I'm doing, there's no stopping me. Move on out of the way because I got to go. So bonds. So that was a big thing for me. $15,000 came from bonds. So my suggestion and tip for you guys though is that no, don't buy bonds right now. The ROI is not great now for your kids. So you would want to do like a 529 savings. So the funds that you put in grow tax-free. And then actually if your child decides not to go to school and you have another child, you can transfer those 529 funds into the other person's name, so into their sister or their brother's name. So it grows tax-free and you can transfer the money. Although you will have to pay taxes if you try to pull out the money for something other than educational purposes. Okay, so go from bonds to 529. And I do actually have another video. It's super old, but it goes over additional information about using a 529 for your kids, for your college savings for your kids. One of the second things I did, I wrote down a few notes. So one of the second things that I did was I cashed out my life insurance policy. I had a universal life insurance policy that for some reason, my financial advisor at the time talked me into getting this. I had no kids, no husband at the time, nothing. So I'm like, after the fact, I don't even understand. So I'm just like, you know what? But with the universal life and whole life, you actually pay much higher premium than you do a term life insurance policy. So which a term life is more like car insurance. You literally pay for exactly that, the insurance, just the in case of kind of insurance. So that's what you need. So that's a tip. So if you have universal life, whole life, this is just my suggestion, okay? My perspective. So if you don't agree, that's okay. You don't need to agree. It's all right. But I would suggest going to term life insurance because the universal life insurance, what you end up doing is that you end up paying that higher premium because there are different administrative fees, and then you're paying a nice little fee to the person that sold you the policy and all this. And I'm like, I don't need to pay the person that, it's kind of like, I don't need to pay the person that help me with the policy. I just need to pay for the policy. So that is my suggestion, to switch from whole life, universal life to term life insurance. And it's okay if you don't agree. So when I cashed out the life insurance policy, and also get the term life insurance in place before you cancel the other insurance. So the other life insurance, Universal Life, sent me a check for about $13,000 because it had been like a little savings, I guess, over that time period, over about 7 years. So they sent me $13,000. It's like, oh, I'll take that. Thank you. So $15,000 from my bonds, $13,000 from my life insurance. I told you guys, super unconventional. But I was looking for money everywhere I could find money. Okay. That's the second thing. So I also had a stock purchase plan and purchased stocks when I worked for Walmart back in the day. So I worked there about 5 years, on and off, that kind of thing. But I was putting money per paycheck. It was about $200 when I was full-time into buying stocks and into the stock purchase plan. So that money was accumulating. And then maybe like right before I came to Texas, so probably over 8 years ago, I called one day to see, because it kept sending me letters and I'm like, what is this letter about? And so I called and they're like, oh yeah, you have like $30,000 in stocks. I'm sorry, what? Yeah. So, but after I left Walmart, I left the cash there and said, okay, that's just a little, extra insurance policy, whatever. And I'm like, that sounds crazy probably to most people. I don't really know what else to say, but it kind of is, right? But it means it's one of those things though, right? You invest and they're able to forget about it because you're like, okay, that's really the point. You invest and you build wealth on the side. And over time, you're like, oh my gosh, you're astounded by how much the account has grown. And that's what it was. And so what I ended up doing is that I cashed out those stocks. I mean, I should have probably kept a little bit of the stock as an afterthought. I'm not perfect. What can I do? But I would suggest though, so if your company, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, wherever you're working, if they have stocks and a stock purchase plan, that you make sure that you're putting a portion of your check towards that stock purchase plan, whatever it is, $50, $100, $200, because it accumulates over time and you, out of sight, out of mind, you forget about it entirely. And so it becomes this extra small savings fund, emergency fund for you, or whatever you want to do with it. And yeah, most people hate to even think about cashing out stock, but I needed to get to a place where I could be free from my student loans, free from just all of that debt, and be able to build wealth just with no guilt, with nothing else looming over my head. So that's what I did. So my tip is make sure that if you have a stock purchase plan at your job, make sure you're actually investing in it. $25, $50, whatever it is. Don't just say, oh, okay, I don't really have the money for that. Put a little bit in, okay? So that's the third thing. The fourth thing, I use my own income. So at the time I had just moved to Texas and I was just like, I can't. I'm bogged down at work. I can't take on another job. I can't take on anything else, period. So I didn't have any other additional income when I first started paying off my student loans in 2017. So that was when I really started gung-ho, February of 2017, going after paying off my student loans. I was like, I can't take on anything else. I just can't. So I used my own current income and was able to pay off probably about between $45,000 and $50,000 using my own income. And yes, I know not everybody makes a pharmacist salary. I understand. So you may have to use other sources, other streams of income in order to pay more towards your student loan. So I totally get that. So that's okay. But per paycheck, I had a plan that I was going to pay whatever it was, I think at the time I was $2,400 towards paying off my student loan per month, because I was like, I have to get rid of this. And my goal initially was actually 18 months. But once I started pummeling through it. And that's how I got to the point of 11 months, because after a while, the balance just kept falling. And that was a big thing with refinancing too, is that when I refinanced, there was so much more money going towards the principal balance. It was ridiculous. So when the letter came to say, okay, now you owe this much, I could actually physically see the amount decreasing. Before refinancing, I could not see the principal balance decreasing at all. Like it literally stayed at $105,000 for years. So once again, if you want to look at who I use, Laurel Road, seriously guys, check the description. Check the description so you can look at their rates, look to see what your interest rate could be, and to see if this could be beneficial for you to refinance. I'm serious, because it's the only time that I actually saw the number decrease. And you don't have to, right? But you can at least see if this can make a difference for you and paying off your student loans. Okay, so those are the 4 big ways that I used to pay off my student loans. And then of course, reselling came along really towards the end. It was the last few months, probably around September, October of 2017, when I was down to like my last $13,000, where I started using the funds that I was making while I was reselling to pay towards my debt, because I still had another income. So anything, if I sold a $50 pair of boots after, Poshmark took its fees, because Poshmark was all I was doing back then, I would apply the rest towards my student loan. That was what I was doing. Okay, so other big tips. You need to make a budget. You must make a budget. You have to know how much money is coming in and how much money is going out. Where are you spending your money? Because then that's how you know, okay, this is where I can reduce my expenses and actually put this money now towards, because that's the key, that you reduce unnecessary expenses, subscriptions, Netflix. Like there's everybody has a few things that they can just get rid of, but then when you get rid of it, the point is that you actually use that money. Okay, Netflix, I don't even know how much Netflix is anymore. Is it $15? Something like that. So $15, okay, and then you got rid of your subscription for that beauty box. That was $50. So you literally slash all of those, and then you say, okay, now I could put $65 more per month towards my student loan. You just don't let the money flow back into the account. That's not what we do around here. You keep an actual list of how much you're saving. So making a budget, knowing how much is coming in, how much is going out, and getting rid of your unnecessary bills is totally key. Because if you have no idea what's going where, when, no, okay? First tip. So the second tip, you need to make a plan. You need to know exactly how much money you want to pay off in a certain period of time. So if you want to pay off $30,000 in 18 months, you need to do the math to find out how much you need to pay off per month in order to get there. And is that actually feasible for you? Because I mean, we have a whole lot of big rainbow, cockamamie, unicorn ideas, but can that actually work for you? But then you also need to stretch and push yourself, because that's the only way this is going to happen. Otherwise, it will take you a decade, right? Easily. So make a plan for how much money you will apply toward your debt per month or per two-week period of time. You have to choose what works for you. For me, it was per month. So I said, okay, I would pay off $2,400 every month. And so I actually split it up I was like, I had to make sure that this was going to happen, that I was going to do this, because no one else was going to do this for me. So I said, okay, well, I'll pay $1,200 per 2-week period of time. So I went into my bank account and said, okay, $1,200 sent on this day, around when I got paid. And then I'm like, okay, another $1,200 sent around this time. And then, but if something happened, there was at least one time where Harvey came and I had water in my gas tank, had to pay thousands of dollars to get my car repaired. So there was half a month where I wasn't able to pay that $1,200. I'm like, okay, that doesn't work this month. But you can stop it if an emergency comes, but have a plan. That's number 2. So number 3, be able to say no. Delayed gratification. You cannot say yes to everything. You cannot, what are the words? Like, you cannot have this great, beautiful life where you're able to be debt free and build wealth without saying no to some things, without saying no to that new TV, that new iPhone, that big trip. You have to be able to say no for a bigger, better purpose in your life. It's just what it is. But if you continue to say yes to everything, how will you get there? So I said no to a whole lot. Vacations, I was not eating out. Everything that did not have to do with paying off my student loans was not it. My family thought I was insane, but now I get to live what I feel like is the dream sometimes. I'm like, I paid off $100,000 in 11 months. It's insane. But because I went all the way, I did all the things that not everybody wants to do, but it's worth it. That's number 3. Say no and be able to have delayed gratification, okay? Be able to wait to buy something. Be able, okay, you know what? In 18 months, I can buy that. If I still want it then, I can buy that then, okay? The last one is patience. Patience and perseverance. You're gonna need to be patient, because did I know that I was gonna be able to do this in 11 months? Heck no, I thought it was gonna take 18 months. I would be riding home from work thinking, oh, nah, there is no way I am doing this for 18 months. So I would be like, okay, what can I do? What can I do? How can I make this thing go faster? What can I do? And some of the things that made it go faster were actually, which this is a side note, I would not only say, okay, I would make a list of the ways that I save throughout the month. So if I save some money on car maintenance, if I save some money on food, if I save, whether it was $2, $3, $4, I would make a list. So by the end of the month, I'd have this list of things that I save money on. So if I saved $42.62, I would use that money, and I would also round it up. I say, you know what, can I make that like 50? Could I make it like 60 and apply that towards my debt? you push the cuff. You have to push the cuff, and you have to be patient that it may not happen as fast as you would like for it to happen. And then persevere, right? So Harvey came through, kind of knocked me down. I was literally about 3 months from finishing. I had, I don't even know how much, a little over $13,000 left to pay off. And I was just like, how am I gonna do this? This just knocked me back by thousands of dollars. I persevered anyways. I was like, oh no, we're not doing this, boo. We're not doing this. I'm going anyways. I'm doing it anyways, and nothing is standing in my way. Whatever I had to do. And you have to have that attitude. Like, I'm doing this no matter what, and you better move out of the way. So perseverance is a big thing. Whew, I think we made it through, guys. So what questions do you guys have? That's a lot of information. So I gave you 4 big ways that I paid off my student loans. $100,000 in 11 months, and then a few tips along the way. Hopefully I didn't forget anything. I don't think so, but let me know if you guys have questions. This was kind of exciting to do. I finally got it done. Yay. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if you guys have questions. Make sure you guys definitely check out that link in the description for Laurel Road, who I used to refinance my student loans. Honey, that was where it was at. And the customer service was just hands down the best. Anytime you call, you're speaking to a person quickly, always answering your questions, always. And I mean, to even be with a company that congratulated me, like they literally congratulated me. I was like, oh, they were like, I said, I need you to send me my final payoff. My final payoff was like $2,300. She was like, oh my God. She was like, congratulations. She was just like, I'm sure not many people have done this. And she's like, you paid off $100,000 in like less than a year. She was like, congratulations. And I thought, like that time that you just want to start crying thinking, honey, I did that thing. You know what I mean? And so to be with the company, they were wonderful. They really were. And so I just was like, I want to spread the good news of how great that company is. And then along with the little tips that I shared today, you'll really be able just to change your financial life by paying off your debt. And it's funny, my mentor was like, you know what? Like, she's like, the paying off your debt is really not that exciting. And I'm like, well, not in the way that making money is exciting, right? But I'm thinking like, this is another way you build wealth. Like, yes, paying off debt may take several years. And I think that's the part that people have a hard time with. And then the building wealth, you're like, well, you can make money today. Once you say you can make money today, everybody wants to be in that e-course. Because my dad actually and I developed the e-course, how to pay off your student loan debts. It's called Unchained, How to Pay Off Your Student Loan Debt. And it's still available if anybody is interested, but it's hard because it takes a few years. It's worth it, but it takes a few years, you know, and you have to, at least depending on how much student loans you have, right? And depending on how much you apply to your student loans, and depending on how gung-ho, motivated, inspired you are to get it done, you know? So it's just really important to be about your business, you know, change your financial future by being about your business. And so also, if you're looking for information about the Unchained, How to Break Free from Student Loan Debt course, that's actually in the description as well. So we can touch base and chat about that if you're interested in that. But yeah, my mentor, I laughed at her because she's like, that's not as interesting as how you make money now. And I'm like, yeah, but when you pay off your debt, you get to pay yourself now. So instead of paying Sally Mae $1,000, I get to pay Kanisha $1,000, right? And then I can save it and then I can invest it and multiply it. So I'm like, that's dope. Okay, now I'm just rambling. So please like, comment, subscribe. I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me, and then hopefully you'll come back and then ask some questions in the comments. And I forget who asked for this video, but I will find you and tag you. Take care, y'all. Bye.